This situation keeps getting crazier for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The reports continue to escalate surrounding Mitch Marner and his future in Toronto. Some brand new reports have dropped regarding this situation, and it's taken yet another turn. We'll break down these new updates and discuss what they mean going forward as the Leafs are preparing for something big in the most critical offseason in the past decade for this team. But before we get into it all, you guys have been absolute beasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. About 71% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. Your guys' support's been unbelievable, so thank you guys for that. And of course, we're going to be continuing to pump out daily videos, weekly live streams, everything like that. So this is the place to be for everything Toronto Maple Leafs related. Ladies and gentlemen, Darius, we have a lot to go over today. Obviously, the Leafs situation with Mitch Marner. We're hearing rumblings about Sam Bennett, all these different things as the free agency period is opening up very, very soon, but also as rumors start to pick up because we hear a lot of things over, and we have heard a lot of things over the past few days. There is some interesting reports that have come out. Let's just dive right into it regarding Mitch Marner. Nick Kypreos is trying to say that it's not about the money anymore. And of course, Kypreos has come out on different podcasts, different radio shows. It's the fact he doesn't want to be a Leaf anymore. It's about the lack of respect. I'm assuming he's talking about the lack of respect coming from the fans. I've said this multiple times, but if you cannot take the heat when you're a high-paid player, you belong in a market where people care about you, win or lose. And this is, of course, alluding to Nick Kypreos coming out and saying that in his eyes, his belief is that Marner doesn't even want to remain a Leaf anymore. And we've dived into a bunch of things since the season has ended about, fans meeting him at the elevator and all these different things dating back to 2019. And I think it's something that was also very prevalent in Brad Treliving's press conference a couple days ago when he said it's on Mitch Marner too. He has the final say at the end of the day, not fully on Brad Treliving, but these new reports make it seem like Mitch Marner wants out, and we've of course known that, but you pair that with the Chris Johnston report that also came out saying that the Leafs are trying to get a sign and trade going here. Very, very likely now that he leaves, but it keeps getting crazier as it pertains to reasons that he wants to leave Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely. And like always, as talking about Mitch Marner, I do want to start by saying take everything we're going to say in this video with a grain of salt, because I do believe some of this is the agent floating things through the media, through different insiders, and so on and so forth. So, we are going to talk about it, but take a lot of this with a grain of salt because I feel like there is a bit of a war going on in the media right now between the team and the camp. But in terms of Mitch Marner and staying in Toronto, I don't think it's very likely at this point. I think the team is trying to get a sign and trade going so they can get some type of asset in return for the player. I don't think his camp wants to help the team whatsoever because of much of what he's talking about here, the lack of respect, all of that. Now, if he doesn't want to be a Toronto Maple Leaf, don't be a Toronto Maple Leaf, right? Toronto Maple Leafs fans at this point, it's about the team, right? It's not about Mitch Marner anymore and the success of the team. So if you don't want to be here, I don't think the fans want him here either. And the reason that there is this fan reaction towards him, because a lot of people are like, what about Nylander? What about Matthews? It is true to a degree for them as well. But Marner, from the beginning of the contract negotiations back in 2019, his camp squeezed this organization for everything that they had, every dollar. And then I don't want to say he didn't honor the contract, but he didn't show up in the playoffs when it mattered. The stats are there. We have the stats from games 5, 6, and 7 of every series that he played. And you can just see it with the eye test, right? Didn't show up when it mattered, and that's why the fan reaction's there. We've seen Austin Matthews have those moments in those games. It didn't always happen. It didn't happen this year, but we've seen it. We've obviously seen William Nylander with those moments. Again, didn't happen in Game 7 this year, but nobody really had it in Game 7. But, Brad Treliving's talked about changing the DNA of the team too, and I think that includes Mitch Marner, walking away from Mitch Marner. But I do think that the team right now is trying to get a sign and trade going, but it doesn't seem like the camp wants to help.
Yeah, and obviously, it hasn't been the most pleasant experience for Mitch Marner, according to him, at least over the past little bit. And we know, rightfully so, Leafs fans turned on Mitch Marner, especially in Game 7. They turned on the team in general, throwing his jerseys out, and he said it was hard on his family, all these different things. And we also know that not only are the Vegas Golden Knights seeming like the best overall fit, and that's where I think he's probably going to end up going if he leaves Toronto, but the Anaheim Ducks are another team as well, which we covered briefly in a previous video. But the Anaheim Ducks, bit of a small market, not a team ready to necessarily win. Maybe Mitch Marner can help push them into playoff contention, but Anaheim has a lot of money, being able to offer him a lot of money, and of course, I guess, privacy, if that's something that Mitch Marner is looking for and that he covets highly. And we think back to the Brad Treliving, comments from his press conference about changing DNA. It seemed like that was directly related to both John Tavares, but mainly Mitch Marner. And you can't really change DNA by shuffling up third and fourth liners, whether that's getting rid of Nick Robertson, Pontus Holmberg, Calle Jarnkrok, maybe David Kampf out there, trade him away. It's never going to happen, at least when it pertains to actual DNA. So either he was just saying that to say it and it's all word soup, or this is actually going to happen here. And we know there are a lot of teams willing to pay Mitch Marner money because he sells tickets, he sells jerseys, but also he's a very good regular season player. And teams that have a boatload of cap space, maybe they have a ton of rookie contracts. Think of San Jose, Anaheim, Columbus, all these different teams. They're going to go for him. And if Mitch Marner wants to kind of just ride into the sunset here, make his money, and probably not contend for a cup anytime soon, that would be the place to go. And I think there's a very real chance that happens, even though he's also linked to teams like Vegas who are close and close competing for a cup, or the Florida Panthers who might win the cup this year.
Yeah, and how do you not expect, I mean, through all of this and what we just, covered the last little while, expect Leaf fans to turn on this player, right? There's reports now that he would rather go to Anaheim and make more money, so then, nobody really bothers him there. While, Matthew Nye is a guy that's like very popular with Leaf fans right now and only going to get more popular because of his play, is saying, no, I want to stay here. I want to get a contract done. Maybe I'm going to make a little bit less, but I want to stay here because I like playing under the bright lights, right? Like it's just the complete opposite, right? So, either you want to be here, you want to be a Maple Leaf, or you don't. And, everything that happened since 2019, like the fan reaction, the reason it turned is because of the contract negotiations and all of that, right? Like nobody did it to the player. The player had to perform up to his contract. And I feel like he didn't do that at times. So, again, great regular season player. And he's a star. Brad Living even said that. We can all acknowledge that. He's great in all situations. He can play in all situations. That's why he makes so much money. We know that. But when it matters in those moments, and the playoffs are about moments, and I've said it on the channel before, and Brad Living said it in that press conference as well. It's about moments, and he doesn't show up in those moments, and that's a concern. They have to change the DNA of the team. So even if he was willing to take a pay cut, which I don't think he is, as the team, as the organization, you have to look at the team, even John Tavares, and be like, I think we have to move in a different direction because something needs to change. We can't, even if they make less, bring everyone back because it just doesn't work. We haven't been able to get over the hump. So it's going to be a crazy next couple of weeks here. Again, I think they're trying to get a sign and trade done. I don't think that the camp wants to do it, but you get an extra year. You get that 8th year if you get that sign and trade going, if they can come up with something with a team that might be interested. LA's in the mix too. We've heard the LA Kings as well, Anaheim Ducks, just to name a few. The Florida Panthers, which is interesting with Sam Bennett, but of course they share the same agent, so take that with a grain of salt. But it's getting pretty crazy. But I think one thing is for sure, before we wrap up here, I don't think Mitch Marner is going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf next year. I think that is done. We just don't know how that's going to come about at this point.
Yeah, and to throw a wrench in things as well, Elliot Freeman came out and had something to say about it. The Leafs and Vegas had discussions last summer around Mitch Marner. Toronto wanted, of course, Shea Theodore, very good defenseman. Vegas wasn't doing that. There was also no guarantee that Marner would waive, and he has the Toronto and Knives would be happy with 8 years. We'll have a video covering that very, very soon. But, we also pair this with Chris Johnson. A ton of reports coming out. They're going to continue to come out. It seems like his time in Toronto is up, but this report from Friedman sheds some light now. They've been trying to get rid of, specifically, the Leafs trying to get rid of Marner for, I guess, a while now, to a degree.
A year.
Brad Treliving as well has been very active, whether it's most notably, of course, the Mikko Rantanen situation. So his time in Toronto seemingly is coming to an end. But again, a lot of mind games going on. We're going to keep you up to date with all the mind games. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We'll see you guys later.